I hear that Hummers are very popular in Culiacán.
Exactamente, sí. Nosotros ahorita como esta unidad lo estamos vendiendo pues muy bien.
There's a myth that some of the narcos like to drive, big fancy cars. Do you get, a lot of narcos in here buying these cars?
No necesariamente, porque ya ve que aquí hay muchos agricultores. Somos líderes en producción de maíz, tomate, camarón. O sea, tenemos mucha diversidad.
The tomatoes are great, the shrimp is great, the corn is great.
Anything to stay away from talking about narcotics.
Es un principal productor.
Well, we're the main producer, so he's supposed to be good.
It's supposed to be good. Muchas gracias.
What she said before this is that in this area, some of the most richest people live in this area. This is the Beltran brothers.
And the Beltran brothers believe that El Chapo set him up. It sparked a split in the Sinaloa organization, and it sparked a huge wave of violence.
Of course, in Sinaloa, it's an area that was peaceful, became a war-torn area, and now, of course, one of the richest mansions and big mansions being built.
Okay, so right here you can see that someone has left him a message. It says, "I love you, Machomo, I miss you, you're a little girl."
And she was saying that, of course, the economy changed in that area, just like the economy changed in Florida during the Sosa days, and of course, the Godmother days and Cocaine Cowboys. If you ask any detective in that time, there was a detective who said that he saw so many cranes over the horizon just building, and of course, banks used to only bank a certain amount of money. Maybe 3 to 4 million a year, and then all of a sudden they were doing like 50 to 60 million or in large amounts like that. So money, anybody's willing. The most illegal to the most legal are willing when money is around. They don't care. The bill collector doesn't care where the money comes. He just cares about the money coming.
Mexico's most powerful drug lords come from, including El Chapo. As we were getting our bearings, an army patrol rolled in. It seems like such a small, quaint town, and then you see scenes like this, and it just reminds you about the violence that goes on in this region. We hooked up with Omar, an official in the mayor's office, who agreed to give us a tour of the region. Nice to meet you. These are our police escorts. We are headed out of this main city into one of the smaller towns. Our escort is telling us that the soldiers have been destroying a lot of the marijuana fields in this region, and it's left people struggling to find any source of income. So they've been turning to banditry, which is why we have our police escort to make sure that we can get to the next town safely without getting robbed. But even though the army has recently begun eradicating the marijuana around the village we were in, the authorities hesitate to go farther into the Golden Triangle. We're told that the town where El Chapo and where the Beltran brothers are from are 5-6 hours deep into the mountains. And I asked our escort whether or not there's a police presence in those towns, and he said, no way. He said that those guys and their families, that's the law. The fertile region of Sinaloa,
and that's the way it becomes anywhere in a tough area. No matter where you're at, if drugs or murder and killing and men are willing to kill to protect what they have, the law will turn back and move away. That's why, that certain mafias still exist underground.
Today, one of the most notorious cartel leaders is El Chapo. Do people here like and support El Chapo?
Sí, claro que sí. Pues es el apoyo que tiene la gente aquí, económicamente hablando. Pues a él les ayuda a la gente, y ellos trabajan para él y él les ayuda. O sea,
So those could be family of El Chapo.
O simplemente conocidos que trabajan juntos.
And then it was time for a lunch break. Got some steak and potatoes going on here.
That's what
Outside the restaurant,
most people don't understand, because they wake up every day to just a great life and don't have to worry about situations like that, and all they don't understand that there has to be soldiers and there have to be policemen who are there to protect them, and because if there was no military, they would just, someone would invade us. Somebody told me a long time ago, there's two ways that you can conquer a country. You can either invade it military wise, or just move there. And you can see, the United States is such a large, just a garden of different people from everywhere, and you go to New Mexico and it's literally just Mexicans. It's certain places in the South that were majority white at one time are majority black now. I mean, it's not imposing a negative thing, but where bad people are, like my mother came to this country and had such a tough time because of racism in her country, and didn't understand that every nationality of every color has bad people.
It's not a good idea to stay too long here, because people are watching us right now.
Okay.
They know we're here, so...
People have seen us come up here.
Yeah.
I believe the village.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's happening here is kind of indicative of the situation here in Mexico. We've come here with 4 police escorts, but we're told that we got to get out of here because it's not safe. We got back to Badiraguato late in the afternoon. For our safety, we had to be out of town before the sun set on us, but we lingered to see the locals coming out to cruise the town square. This area is so notorious for drug trafficking, but at the same time it seems so innocent. Like, people are just driving around in circles in this square for fun. What do most of the people do for work here? So most people in this area are in the marijuana business? Around the corner, we met a 19-year-old who was in a different line of work, his family's churro business. You're a young guy. Do you have any friends who have gone to work in the drug business or have wanted to work in the drug business?
La gran mayoría, dado la falta de trabajo y la falta de oportunidades, tienen que orillarse a trabajar en el narcotráfico.
It's been very violent because of the drug situation. Do you know anybody who's been killed or hurt?
Sí, algunos amigos.
¿Muertos?
Sí.
Has it become normal for young men to be dying because of this drug war?
Les gusta el camino fácil y quieren llegar a la riqueza rápidamente. Simple y sencillamente.
Gracias.
Adiós, que les vaya muy bien.
One thing that kills me about the term drug war is that in a war ends, but when there's so much money to make off that
chaos continues.
item, then
That's her son. That's her son.
they'll just
That's my son.
they'll just continue the drugs, because there's so much money to make illegally, legally. I mean, there's if there were no drugs, I had an argument with a police officer a while back, because if you look at a war, you looked at like World War II. I studied World War II and Bastogne, and how from 1930 6s and 38s, Hitler, and of course 40s and up to 45 is the war, World War II, and of course Japan, and that war took maybe in all maybe 5-6 years, 7 years, probably even short, about that time. We're talking about from beginning to end to the last soldier leaving, but And we've been in Iraq for like 10 years, you know. I mean, we got rid of a dictatorship. You know, this you know, Germany was in Africa and in you know, battling with England and of course, you know, Europe and Arab nations and you know, Russia and of course then they got, you know, their allies were Japan and then we were in Japan. I mean, it was such a large scale war and we're just fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. We've been there for almost 10 years. You know, for the intelligent person, for the idiot, they don't understand that. And that's the way I just look at it. For the idiot, they don't understand that, you know, we just destroyed Hitler and his military and what he was going to do in Germany and, you know, and killing all the Jews off. And, you know, there's no doubt about that. You know, that happened. You know, he killed other people other than just the Jews, Russians, Germans, you know, Russians and, you know, Africans, you know, from different countries in Africa and of course Japan, you know, the wars with Iwo Jima, and it was a war ends sooner or later. It has to end. You know, so the drug war, you know, I would tell him, you know, I'd had this argument with him because I met officers who were just crooked officers, you know, and you know, respect to the officers who do their jobs the right way. But you know, there was an officer when I was younger selling drugs on the street. You know, we would pay him $1,000. I didn't know his name. You know, he had different partners. You know, they patrolled a certain area, and of course, you know, we would give him $1,000 here and there and he would tell us when they were gonna raid us. It's crazy, right? But it's true. There's you know, any person living in that life knows that has happened. They've had those people, you know, so much money to make, and I came up with the point of, you know, a badge makes you an officer, not a good person. You know, you're putting your life on the line. It's different when you're a soldier. You go on a war and you have to put your life on the line. You know, you're putting your life on the line as an officer, but not like in a war. You know, that's a difference. You know, they need money. They need to figure out a way to make money, and drugs make a lot of money. A lot of money. And it's just the never-ending war is what I call it. You know, that's what I call it, and that's what I'm going to stick to until it ends. Until they figure out something, legalize it or something, you know, like Amsterdam, and then it's not a war anymore. It's just drugs and people dealing with it. And that's what we're talking about on By Appointment in this episode, and we've been talking about it. And always wanted to know what I could hear. You know, I get straight to the nitty gritty. I don't beat around the bush. I don't have no politicians, you know. I'm not getting voted in for governor or mayor, you know, and people paying me off or anything like that. I mean, that still goes on. People, you ask, you know, the people, the normal, everyday suburbanite, you know, person, and, you know, they'll tell you that, you know, politicians, there's the good politicians, but we all believe that majority of them are liars. You know, they just want to get into a position. And that's just the way we look at it. I wish we didn't look at it that way, but the real everyday person, you know, just looks at it that way, and that's the truth. People who died over the war. You know, we went for 9/11, I think like 3,000 to 4,000 people died, and we went straight to war. You know how many people have died over drugs? I mean, actors, rich people, poor people, broke people, bums. You know, it's just sad. So many people. It's a war that needs to be ended. And to be honest, I don't think that will ever happen. It's just too much money to be made. The cartels are making billions. What do you think everybody else is making? And of course now they're talking about they've legalized it. You know, one grow house said that they were paying like $20,000 to $30,000 a month in taxes. You know, what do you say about that? Crazy. Murders, not one of them that was related to narco trafficking has been solved. Can you believe that? I mean, and that's what we're talking about.
In all of Mexico, has that made your job difficult?
Hoy
país estamos viendo un poquito más de violencia, un poquito más fuerte la cuestión de privarse de la vida.
What are some of the ways in which people are being killed? What are the methods being used?
Ahora lo que ha diferenciado es que ahora tenemos
And people don't understand that, you know how they say you throw a stone in the ripple? Well, Mexico's right next to us. The stone is in, the ripple is huge. The ripple is overflowing into the United States. And we're just, showing all these shows of, all these shows of people, stopping drugs coming into, how many drugs come into the country that get through? Ridiculous. And that's just what it is.